Hello and welcome to episode 33 of the Kingfisher Knits podcast. My name is Madeleine. I'm talking to you from my home in Zurich, excuse me, where I live with my husband, our two children, and we have another one on the way. I'm recording to you, it's the middle of December, what is it? It's the 14th of December, so we are, more than halfway to Christmas, which is kind of scary. And I will try and start the episode this time by saying something that I should always say at the beginning of the episode, which is a big hello to any new viewers and welcome back to any previous viewers and already subscribed viewers to the podcast. Thank you all so much for taking some time out of your day to sit and look at my knitting and listen to me talk about my knitting. I'm very, very, very grateful for that. And down below this video on YouTube is where you find both links of where to find me, Instagram, Ravelry, website, and all of that. We also have a group for the podcast and for my knitting designs on Ravelry. All those links are down below in the description box, as will be the show notes for the episode. So the links and information of what I talk about. Okay, normally I manage to say some of that information at the beginning, but not all of it. I feel like I have, again, a lot to talk to you about, and I'm just really glad that I managed to carve out some time, because to be honest, if I didn't record now, there probably wouldn't have been another episode before the end of the year, which seems a bit crazy. Okay. So I would like to start with a little bit of admin up at the beginning and a couple of things that I wanted to talk about. One is that the indie gift along is still going along. I am a participating designer. That means that from when the indie gift along kicked off, which I think was November 23rd, I think it was, right up until the end of the year, December 31st, if you're knitting any of my designs, self-published designs, or any of the other 300 plus designers which were signed up for as part of this gift along cal. You don't have to be gifting the item. You can be gifting the item to yourself, but you can join along in the Indie Gift Along Ravelry group, which will also be linked prominently down below. So that qualifies you for, I'm not explaining this very well, that qualifies you for the GAL, as it's called, the Indie Gal Gift Along. The sale period is over now. There was about a week of pattern sales where all of the participating designers had up to 20 of their patterns on sale. That period has now finished, but there are still, you can still knit, you obviously cast on and knit patterns to qualify for prizes. There are also ongoing rolling prizes, so random prizes that are pulled out of chatter threads, and also there are some game threads, which are a lot of fun. Where you can also win prizes. Normally those prizes are one free download from a specific participating designer. And I will talk a little bit more. I've already finished my first GAL project, so I will talk about that in FOs. The other piece of admin, and for this I will require my adding in of photo skills, is that I collaborated with Tracy of Nora George Yarns for her advent calendar this year. And I came up with a pattern which would be to use to work with the mini skeins that were in her advent calendar. So there were 24 mini skeins. And I came up with a pattern called the Eviget Cowl. I'm not going to try and pronounce that a bit better than that. It is a Norwegian word, and it's the Norwegian word which means sort of eternity, infinity, and that's because the main version of the cowl is a cowl which you knit in a tube, so you're knitting in the round, but you have a provisional cast on, and then at the end you are grafting your final live stitches to your original cast on stitches, making a closed tube, so infinity. And that makes a lovely double thick cowl that you can put on. I have also included an option in the pattern where you can just knit. You don't do a provisional cast on, you just cast on and you just knit, a long tube, tall cowl of the type that, you put over your head and it's going to bunch up more around your neck and give a different effect with whatever colours you're working with. So that was designed to work you know, as a priority, it was designed to work with the beautiful yarn that Tracy came up with. I'm not showing any pictures here of the finished cowl in her yarn because that would be a spoiler. Then you wouldn't be seeing, you know, if you've got the advent calendar and you're opening your yarn each day, I might show a picture of sort of where we are up to in terms of progress. But what I will be showing you is now I have released a pattern for general purchase. I did that a couple of days ago, so anyone can now purchase the pattern. And I'm going to put here a picture of one of the cowls that was knit by one of my lovely testers, Sarah Hepworth. And she had a brilliant idea. She paired up one grey skein, which I believe was from the Travel Knitter, with 12 rainbow mini skeins set from the Knitting Goddess. And it made an absolutely stunning cowl. I had already thought that this project would work not just, you know, with 24 different mini skeins. I'd already thought, well, maybe you don't have 24, you just have 12 and you can just repeat it. Also, there's no reason you couldn't make it even longer before closing it up, so use more colours. And I'd also thought that you could just pair, you know, 2 skeins of yarn together. So 2 different skeins of fingering weight yarn. And so instead of changing colour every single time, you're just alternating these 2 colours. But I think Sarah had a wonderful idea, excellent idea, to pair, you know, a rainbow mini skein set with a single grey skein, and you'll be seeing. I've shown you the pictures of how beautifully that turned out. So to be honest, the possibilities with this pattern are pretty endless because you can knit it in many different ways. You can knit it with full skeins of yarn. You can knit it with scraps or mixtures of that, or maybe you've got, you know, scraps left over from, you know, considerable scraps left over from a fade. So each, I'm calling the wedge of the pattern, so what's intended for each mini skein throughout the advent calendar, it's using about 7 to 8 grams of that. So if you have bigger chunks of yarn left over, let's say you've got 5 colours left over, you know, and you've got 30 something grams of each, you know, you could have maybe, you know, you alternate you have the pattern, sorry, of your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 colours and then repeat that again. I think there's a lot of different ways you can do it, and I'm quite desperate to cast on one, but I've been trying to be really disciplined. I'm not going to clear my needles before the end of the year, like completely of all whips, because that's not really how I roll, but I was trying to get several things off the needles for different reasons, and I'm really happy that I'm making good progress on that. So right now, I will show you some yarn which I've got forecasting on my Effie Get cowl, but I haven't got that on the needles to show you, hence why I'm going to be showing you pictures. Anyway, the links to where you can find my Ravelry store will be down below. Oh, and also I have always ongoing a 3 for 2 on patterns, so you put 3 patterns into your cart, the cheapest one is free. Okay, so I normally start with whips, and I think I'm going to stick with that. I don't actually have very much at all in the way to show you whips. I think I've only pulled out 1 whip to show you, but that's fine. And that's because I've got quite a lot of FOs to show you. And one of the other main whip I worked on was the self-striping socks from the beautiful art skein, the art yarn from Twisted Limone. And I'm still working through that. I think I don't have that much to go before I finish the cuff, and then all I'll have to do is put in heels, but I didn't feel like pulling them out to show you again when I had so many other things to show you. So my main whip, the next thing I'm trying to get finished and off the needles, is a sweater for my daughter. It is the From Breton with Love sweater. I'm sorry, this pattern's been obviously, you know, folded up in the bag. It's by the lovely Vicky Bird Designs, who is the Intarsia Queen. And it's just, I fell in love with this pattern, and I think I picked it up in the Indie Gift Along sale last year because she was a participating designer last year. She's not this year because she's on maternity leave, but she was last year, and I picked up this pattern at that point, knowing full well I would not be casting it on during the gal last year, but knowing that I wanted it ready for my daughter this year. And of course I wanted it ready in fall, really, or, I mean, we had a pretty mild fall. I call it autumn, I'm British. I've been clearly watching too many or listening to too many Americans recently. No offense, Americans. But I call it autumn. And I wanted this ready, you know, at least for the winter this year. And autumn here has been really mild, but now I really should have had it finished like at least a couple of weeks ago so that she could start wearing it. So I really want to get this finished. And basically it's knit in pieces and seamed. It's a raglan. So you have the front piece, the back piece, which does not have the heart, and then two identical sleeves. And then at the very end, after you've seamed, you would need to pick up and knit the neckband. And what had happened is that I was knitting on this before I found out that I was pregnant and before my morning sickness kicked in, and it kicked in when I was not that far from finishing the intarsia heart, and then that was way too much to deal with. And the reason, I mean, intarsia in general, I don't think, it's not the technique that I find comes like most naturally to me, but it's cool, it's fine, and especially for like single blocks of colour, which basically this looks like it is, it's totally fine, and I'm glad that it's something I can do. This is the front piece now that it's finished. Sorry, I've still kept a lot of my ends quite long. I need to trim them once I've blocked, but this is the intarsia heart at the front. And while yes, this is one block of one colour, there's two other colours here. So you don't just have, I didn't just have a ball, of this colour yarn going here and this in the middle, but I also had the two, this is navy, you can't really tell there, maybe if I hold up close you can see that that's navy. And then once you got up here, which is where I was when the morning sickness kicked in, you also had this yarn in the middle and you had two things of this. Of course you can strand across that section. And I think I did at the beginning, and then I decided that I was worried that it was going to show through. Anyway, in the end, when I finally pulled it out and, had all my little wound up little balls for the back, I don't know how many there were at this point to work on this, I just sat down, spent an hour or two, maybe not two, of course, to get through just a few rows, but spent, an hour to get it all sorted, knit across, get beyond this point, and then it finished this quite quickly. And then I also wove in all the ends for the intarsia heart. Again, they are not trimmed because although I've trimmed them a bit, but not totally, because I tend to trim them after. I will trim that after blocking. What I will say I did is that down here, there was a single navy stitch. So I did that with duplicate stitch after. So when it came time to not be knitting pink here, I think I knit a pink stitch here, and then I only introduced the pale pink from the next point on. And then when I was I left a longer end for this bit, and when I was weaving in the end, I wove it in for this navy stripe here, down here, duplicate stitch that little bit there. It's not totally beautiful. I'd probably try and smooth it out on blocking. Anyway, so the back I had already done. As I said, the back was done. Yes, it's curling, it's stocking stitch, and it needs, but it's a lot bigger than that. There we go. This is the age 8 size. And so all I had to do was finish the front, which obviously has got the front neck shaping. I have now finished one sleeve. What I decided to do was, this is the only place that you had the pink, the dark pink in the pattern, but I decided to also do the cuffs of the sleeves in the same pink. And I am a decent way through the second sleeve. So it's not going to take me that much longer, and then it'll be onto seaming and then the neckband. So I really want to get this done. The yarn I'm using is, see if I've got a yarn tag in here. I recently had a bit of a clear out and just threw out a bunch of tags. I think I had so many tags in this. Anyway, here's my yarns. But I can tell you it's Patterns. I think they call it Merino DK or Superfine Merino DK. And I don't remember exactly what the colour names and numbers are, but I will link my project page where it's all the information is there. But yeah, this is a navy, a sort of, nice rich hot pink, and a very pale pink. I think that was tea rose, that pink or something. That's, I've got a fair amount of the pink left, but I knew I would, but I only bought one ball of that. I think I bought 2 balls of the navy and 5 or 6 of the pale pink, the main colour. So this is in theory what I need to finish. I still have another ball of this. So this I need to finish the sleeve. I don't think this will get me to the sleeve, but what I have left should get me, to finish the sleeve and the neckband. I'm pretty confident. I'm knitting it on 4mm needles for the main stocking stitch, and 3.5mm needles was used for the ribbing. So I'm really happy about the prospect of that being done. I know there is still a seaming to do. I'm not totally intimidated by seaming, especially on a child's garment, and it's a very long time since I seamed anything, and I'm kind of looking forward to it. Yeah, it's a bit weird because I'm so used to things being, you know, the final thing to do is pick up and knit the sleeve in the round and then you're done, you know, or pick up the collar and you're done, but there's no seaming to be done. So it is another step, but I think it's also going to make, you know, a very good long-lasting sweater. So that is my only like major whip at the moment. I have, as I said, I'm trying to get several things off the needles. My Serafina top is not going to be priority right now. That's the beautiful, you know, grey top that I'm knitting with the cream lace panels. All there is to do is finish the sleeve cuff and neckband. It won't take me that long, but it involves still, you know, picking up the stitches, knitting them into this twisted ribbon. I'm doing tubular binders for that, and it's for a top that I'm not going to wear anytime soon. So I was prioritising other things to get finished. And yeah, I'm just looking here. Nope, there's no other whips here to show you. So I'm going to show you FOs. The first one I'm going to show you is an FO I have already shown you, but I wanted to show it to you again because I finally sewed on the buttons. And this is where we discover again that I don't know how to pronounce. So this is a free pattern on Ravelry. It is called the Puerperium Cardigan, and it's a free pattern from Kelly Van Niekerk, and it is, sorry, there's a fold line down the middle there. It is available in the newborn size, and then there's a paid for pattern for further sizes. So if you want, called Beyond Puerper. I'm normally decent with pronunciation, but apparently not today. That word. And then I think you've got it in different, you know, a bit larger baby sizes, maybe toddlers, and then I think she has another adult one as well. Anyway, I knit this a little while back. It's in beautiful DK weight yarn from Mothie and the Squid. Again, I'll link the project page. The reason I'm showing it to you is I finally sewed on the buttons. So these are just really simple shell buttons, I guess they are. There are a lot of buttons for a little jacket like this, and I don't really like sewing on buttons. I'm not particularly good at them. I'm pretty happy of the job I did this time, and the only reason really I'm mentioning it is that so that I was a bit more nervous sewing on these buttons than other buttons I have in the past. I think in the past I've sewn on buttons onto my knitwear more for like mitten flaps for kids, maybe a couple of buttons up here, but I've never made a closing cardigan for myself, so not buttons that there were lots of to sew on and mattered where how they, you know, were aligned and everything. So I don't think anybody needs the tip of before sewing them on, you know, I lay this button band down, I knew where the buttonholes were, and I used little removable stitch markers to mark exactly the stitch where the button would be best centered on the other half of the button band. I think most people know that. And probably many of you know more about sewing on buttons than I do onto knitwear. This is specific. I've sewn many buttons onto shirts and the like. So I looked up what to do, and I used a tutorial from Pearl Soho. So I will link that down below because I just found that to be useful for me just to see someone doing it. So I will link that down below. So that's why I'm mentioning this again. I love this little cardigan, and finishing this one has made me very much want to cast on one or two other things for the baby. Okay, we are on to FOs. So my first FO is what I'm wearing, and I'm over the moon about it. This is the Recoleta cardigan by Jochi Locatelli. I cast this on in October or November last year. So it is more than a year on the needles, and it is partly because it's a mostly lace work garment, although I used Aran weight yarn, but it was also because it, so following charts, there was charts to follow, there were 2 different charts to follow on every row, and it, you know, took me some, I didn't want to set myself up to knit on it unless I had time to sit, pull out the charts and know that I was sitting in a spot knitting for more than 10 minutes, which a lot of my knitting is 10, 15 minutes here and there. So it was always that project which could only be done once everything else was done, or if I specifically carved out time for it. And then I didn't knit on it in the summer because summer was hot and this was Aran weight yarn. Anyway, I'm super happy that it's done. Yes, it would be great potentially if it was done a few weeks earlier, but more than that I wouldn't have worn it because it is actually very warm. But I'm super happy to have it finished because while I'm now 7.5 months pregnant, is that true? Yes. And I am still wearing some of my sweaters, the ones which have a bit more positive ease. Of course, they do that whole thing of looking like, you know, little crop sweaters on you, coming halfway down your belly. But it was just, I wanted to have a cardigan that I could wear in the cold winter weather and while pregnant, and this is just perfect. So I'm going to stand up so you can have a look. You get to see the bump. So this cardigan is knit from the top down. I need to think about it. It started up here in the collar with a provisional cast on. So let me make sure, can you see what I'm showing you there? The collar in the very middle. And you knit sort of away along here, and then you went back and knit more here, and then you picked up. And then you had everything on the needles to start going down and doing the sleeves. And so you had, there's one chart needed for the collar part, and another chart for the back part. I just love the back of this sweater so very much, and I'm over the moon with it. All I did in the end, I've only steam blocked it because I was a little concerned. It's 450 grams or 460 grams in the end of an Aran weight yarn. I'm just going to sit down for a second. Of an Aran weight yarn which has yak and silk content in it. And so I was just imagining, and it's superwash merino, imagining this thing being so heavy, being hard to manipulate. I'm quite pregnant, not enjoying sort of, you know, kneeling down on blocking mats too much right now. So I decided to try steam blocking it only and see what that did. And I think it's done an excellent job. So that's my first time really doing that, just steam blocking something once it's finished. So yeah, I'm really loving these collars. You can sort of pull the collar up a bit, or if it's feeling too bulky, I fold it away a bit more like that. And obviously, even with the bump, while it's not, you know, I could close it if I wanted with some sort of closure, but at least it's something that's comfy and easy to wear. The yarn is so luxurious. I love the colour. So the yarn is Plucky Knitter in the Traveller Aran base, which is now discontinued. They still have the Traveller Sport base, which is the same blend. So I think it was, if I can remember, so it's merino, yak and silk, and I think it's 65% merino. And then I can't remember, maybe it's 15 or 20% yak and the rest silk or something like that. I'm afraid I didn't pull out any of the yarn to show you. I think, no, I didn't, I put it away. But again, that's all linked on my project page. I used 4.5mm needles. It uses the same needles throughout. It is quite a long line cardigan, and partly because I was worried about running out of yarn, which I didn't in the end. I knit it more to the normal length that I would knit a sweater. Sorry, let me move here again. So my high hip is up here. So normally I would knit a sweater so that it came to, you know, below the waistband of my jeans, or where I would normally have them. So wait, where's my, if I can find my hips right now. Yeah, high hips up here, my hip bone. So this is absolutely more sort of a length I would normally knit a sweater to. And I think there was another 1.5 inches in the pattern. In the end, seeing how beautiful this sweater is, and I did see the pictures of it on, you know, on Hockey herself and other people who'd knit it to the full length. It does look great, and I would be more than happy with it also being 1 inch or so longer. But anyway, that's what I did. I did alternate skeins pretty much throughout. What happened is once I came to the sleeves, I was looking at the skeins. They were looking very similar. So I'd saved some of the yarn that I'd finished with up here, so I started with that, and then I basically alternated for a decent portion when putting in the next ball of like leftovers I had, and then up until the final ball. There is a slight gradient. No, you can see. I mean, you can see a little bit of, you know, especially the camera picks up variation tonality there, but I don't mind that at all. It's a tonal yarn. Yeah, so I'm just over the moon happy about it. I hope I'm not forgetting to say something about it, but yeah, it's a pattern which, I mean, for the final item, it's not difficult to knit the pattern. It's complex in terms of, you know, there are charts to follow, but there's also stocking stitch, you know, in between. So you are getting to rest. There is nothing very complicated in it. There are no very complicated stitches. I mean, it's all yarn overs, SSKs and knit two togethers. I don't think that there's anything else in it. There's no, you know, 3, 4, 5 stitch stitches. Yeah, that's all there is. So in a way it's simple, but you know, you have to be prepared for expanses of lace, but I think it's so worth it. And I just love that I have this heavy, cozy garment. I know it's going to pill. It's going to pill a lot. It's already fuzzed up in a beautiful way so far, but it's going to pill, but I know that and I'm fine with that. So yeah, in the end I used a bit more than 4.5 skeins of that yarn. And I had bought that yarn in a Plucky Knitter sale a while back. I think it was 30% off. So, I mean, it's still a luxury yarn. I don't remember exactly how much I spent. I could look it up. You know, it's not the cheapest garment in the world, but love it. Could just keep talking about that, but I have other things to talk about. So, I'm now going to talk about another garment FO, and this is my design that I was doing with the yarn that I got from Connie of Chile Knits. So, if you remember, I was doing a circular yoked top, and I think I'd shown it to you before I finished the body. Pretty sure. Anyway, so it starts up here. There is 1x1 twisted rib with short rows to raise the back. This top colour that I've used here, so this is all on her cuddly sock base, which is 85% superwash merino, 15% nylon. And this colour up here is Masquerade Light. So the shaping here is all done circular yoke style shaping, meaning you have plain knit rows and then you'll have rounds where you fairly rapidly increase to make the shaping. Here is the texture design which I've put on the yoke here, which is very simple. They're just 1/1 cables, and this part, the top row here, sorry, show you like that. These are just slip stitch patterns, and these are just 1/1 cables. And then once you separate for the sleeves, I then was striping 2 round stripes, 2 different beautiful colours of Connie's yarn. This is the greyish base. The greyish colour is Sound of Silence, while the pale blue is Imagination. And what I did is I finished, I worked the twisted ribbing on 2.75mm needles. The body is worked on either 3.25 or 3.5. I would have to actually double check. But then at the bottom, I've done a 2-colour brioche hem, and I have done this with 2.75mm needles, as brioche is, you know, much looser gauge, and I didn't want this to pull in at all at the bottom, so that's why I was happy to do a brioche hem. But I also didn't want it to flare out massively, so it's just a tiny, you know, you get a tiny bit of added oomph there, let's say, because, you know, brioche is squishy. I did it as 2-colour brioche. So carrying on, I had the Imagination being the, you know, front colour on the outside, and the Sound of Silence is the colour that you can see predominantly on the inside. You could do this 1-colour brioche, or you could do it in just rib, and I will write that when I finalise the pattern. And I bound off with the sewn Italian bind off. It is a tubular bind off, and it is my favourite bind off to use for brioche stitch. It makes a lovely smooth tubular edge there. And I'm pretty sure I sewed it with the grey, yeah, with the Sound of Silence. So not the yarn which I was using as the main colour here in the brioche. Not that I think you can really tell. I mean, I think I chose to do that, but it doesn't really matter. Now, and then to finish off the sleeves, I picked up the stitches and I've just knit in twisted rib. So it just has these nice little cap sleeves. I'm not modelling it for you because it looks a bit ridiculous on me right now. I have made this for my usual measurements, so both with no bump, but also with a somewhat smaller bust. So I'm not trying it on for you now. I look forward to the chance when I will get to try it on for you. But now, anyway, this pattern, I now need to, it's fully drafted for my size, but I now need to double check my spreadsheet and actually update the pattern for the different sizes that I plan to offer. And then it will go into test knitting. So my hope is that it will be, all ready and off happily in test knitting by the time baby arrives. And then for this pattern to come out, in the new year. I also would like to say that I really loved working with Connie's yarn. It is a beautiful, beautiful base. It's not a very plump fingering, but it is a slightly plumper fingering, certainly than your standard 75-25 sock weight base. And it's just so soft. And this I also Justine blocked. I just thought I'd give it a try. I knew for sure I did not want to, heavily block the brioche, because once you wet block brioche, if you're not very careful with it, and you just sort of fling it down, stretch it out, it stretches out and then it's gone. It doesn't mean you can't get it wet, you can, but you have to be very careful, just have to be careful with it, is my point. So I had already planned to, wet block it, but, be careful with the brioche, and I just saw how well steam blocking this worked, and I thought I'd just give it a go, and it just looks beautiful. It looks perfectly blocked. So I, absolutely loved working with Connie's yarn. It blocked out beautifully. And so I will be looking for testers for this pattern very, very soon. I will call out to my usual testers, but given it's my first adult garment project, I thought I'll also mention it here on the podcast if there's people who, who would be interested, just to know, because I will need more testers than I normally use, because I will want testers for, for each size, and ideally more than one. And I wanted to say that I have chosen to do it in 3 colours, especially for the sizes, I would say up to about a 38 bust. This pattern is achievable with 3 single skeins of fingering weight yarn, so I thought it was also a nice way to, even to put together some beautiful 3 skein kits, that Connie would be able to be doing that, or also people who are looking to knit from stash will be able to do that happily, from their stash. But you don't, of course, have to go for yarns with quite the contrast that I have here. I love the effect. But you could also knit it all in one colour, or you can have colours which are a lot more similar, or you could have, this colour and then you alternate this colour with one other colour down here for the striped section. I made it in a way that I thought it would look beautiful and also be a lot of fun, fun to knit. And there is waist shaping in here, but that will be optional. And it's just light waist shaping. So anyway, it hasn't got a name yet. I actually haven't shown it, the finished item yet, to Connie, so I do need to send her a picture so she can have a look at that too. But I really, really enjoyed working on this project and working with this yarn. Okay, so that's another FO. And the next FO is the pattern which I have knit. I chose to knit for the Indie Gift Along. So this will be my first entry. I'm hoping to do another one, but it's already the 14th of December. Anyway, I'm super, super, super happy with this. So this is the Cathedral Grove hat. This is a pattern by Faye Kennington, who is Ukee, so UKEE Knits on Instagram. And look at that crown. Oh. So I knit this yarn. This is showing up much richer, brighter red. It's a lot more, burgundy, purpley-ish colour. But this is in 2 different colours of Malabriga Rios. Unknown colourways, they didn't have tags. So this is the one which I've used for the rib. And this one up here is the one I used as the background colour. And I haven't got to hand the yarn, the white creamish yarn, but this Rios is a worsted weight yarn, and this pattern is written for worsted weight yarn. But I didn't have any worsted weight cream or white yarn that I was happy to use, let's say, for this. So this is a DK weight sock yarn from West Yorkshire Spinners. It's the Air Valley DK, which is a 75 wool, 25% nylon. And I think it just, I did hold it as a dominant colour, and I think overall the effect is there. It just isn't quite as dominant as it would be because the stitches, the yarn is a little bit thinner, but I love the final effect. I'll put it on for you. This is more a hat which is designed with, let's say, some slouch so that you wear it, you know, sort of down like that. And in the pattern, she says to put a pom-pom on it. Of course, I mean, pom-poms are always optional. I love pom-poms. I also love this crown. And I also feel like this is probably going to be a gift hat, and I'm not sure who for yet. So if I did do a pom-pom, I would be making it with the leftover yarn here from the brim, sorry. And probably wouldn't make too big a pom-pom. I might just make the pom-pom, I don't know. I still have the yarn, I can make the pom-pom at any time. Anyway, I did post on Instagram saying to pom-pom or not to pom-pom, that is the question. So, and most people said to pom-pom. Although not everybody. So I've still got the yarn, I won't use it for anything else. It's about 20 grams left. These were about 50 grams each. They were half skeins. They were a bit more, I think, than 50 grams. So I think I have nearly 30 grams of this actually, and I have like 20 grams of this. Anyway, it was a very enjoyable knit, and I just think the end item is super, super beautiful. So the other FO I wanted to show you, and it's what I wanted to show you last week, is a hat design that I knit out of Aran weight yarn from the Wool Kitchen. So this was her Aran weight, it's a BFL, 100% superwash BFL, and this is the Champagne Supernova colourway. And I have knit this hat. I just realised I have not, while I've woven in my ends, I have not trimmed them. So I'm just trying not to let them poke out. I'm going to pop the hat on and then I'm going to show it to you. It's not a hat that I think I am necessarily going to keep for myself in the long run. Oh, make it a bit wonky, there we go. Because I find it's a bit pale for me and for my colouring. But I specifically requested this colour because I love it. So it's a hat which maybe you can see has a short row, what I'm calling a short row brim. So it's the ribbing is taller at the front than here at the back, which means it hugs the head really nicely, comes down nicely over the ears. This one I've knit in a big-ish size. I already have quite a big head, but so it's got a bit of slouch here. And because of the short row effect, it sort of has the effect to tip the full crown, the crown of the head more towards the back. And I've done some Gansey patterning. I should talk towards the camera. I've done Gansey patterning. So you've got one motif here, another motif there, and then again I'm talking to the table, a final motif at the end, which transitions also into the crown decreases, which also have their own sort of pattern to them, all using knits and pearls. So here, and I was really, really happy with it. I found it really enjoyable to knit and engaging, and I think it makes a very wearable hat at the end. Of course, traditionally Gansey patterns are knit in a single colour, so you have nothing to distract you from the patterning. But I think here you can still see the patterning beautifully. And those little pops of colour are so beautiful. So this pattern, I have already written it up, but I'm planning to do a little collection of hats. That's the plan at the moment. So I have another one on my needles and another one planned. So we shall see. So watch this space. But those will hopefully be coming out in the not too distant future in the new year. And I was just really, really happy with this finished hat. And this yarn was really beautiful to work with. It has a lovely, ever so slightly sheepy feel, but without being scratchy at all. And it's a lovely, lovely BFL. So we are on to acquisitions and dream knitting. In acquisitions, I wanted to show you some yarn which I didn't show you last time around because again, I was going on and on and on. So a while back now, these yarn arrived from the UK. It is from Fab Funky Fibres, and I follow Fab Funky Fibres for a while. I don't think they only do self-striping. I think they do other yarn as well, but they're particularly well known for the self-striping. And I mean, check out their Instagram feed, it's absolutely beautiful. And they have an Etsy shop, and they tend to do big updates, so it's not always stuff being put into the shop. And I went there for the rainbow colours. So I bought 3 different colours. What I did actually, they also offer 50-gram skeins, which is great because, to be honest, I can get a pair of socks out of 50 grams. If I'm using like contrasting toes and heels and even cuffs, I can get a pretty full pair of socks for myself out of 50 grams. So I'm just looking around here because I have, yeah, there we go. What I got was one of the yarns that I got in a self-striping pair. So this is a full 100 grams, split into 2 50-gram balls. And this colorway, I think it's just called number 15. And okay, this isn't just, it's not really a rainbow, it's just lots and lots of colors, but I love the tones in there. Look at those different purples in there. So there's 15 different colored stripes in this yarn, which is crazy. And it's very, 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 very beautiful. And so yeah, with 100 grams, if I use contrasting heels, toes and cuffs, or at least heels and toes, I can certainly get a full pair of socks for myself and a pair of socks for my daughter, or a pair of shorty socks. So loving that. Then this one, to be honest, I would have got the 100 grams if they had it, but they didn't. They only had a 50-gram left. And this is called Break in the Clouds. So this one is alternating those rainbow stripes that you see, always with the same grey. So you have the grey, and then, yeah, the red, grey, orange, grey, yellow. Absolutely beautiful. I think on all of their listings on their website, they have, or almost all of them, they have not just pictures of the skeins, but also of knitted samples, or at least a section, because I think she has a circular sock machine. And if not that, then pictures of the yarn wrapped around so you can see the stripe sequence, but I'm pretty sure they're almost always little knit samples. And I really like that. And the final one, which I got a 50-gram skein again, and I could not resist this one. And I've already wound it up, thinking that I probably will finish either, you know, before Christmas or very soon after. There's other socks that I'm knitting, and I'll need another simple on-the-go knitting project. So this is called Never Ending Rainbow, and it's 28 stripes, which is insane. And in this 50-gram ball, there are 2 full repeats. So each sock, if you knit the full 50 grams, each sock will have 28 stripes in it, which is just crazy. So you can see this very pink here, right at the center here. There's a touch more than 2 full repeats because it's the same pink that you finish with here. So it goes through this pink to red, you know, basically a gradient rainbow, all the way to a grey. Actually, it finishes with, which you can actually see. You can see quite well here on the outside. So it finishes with a grey. And so I've already also caked up. This is just black. This is a black mini skein. It is a hand-dyed mini skein. I had a set of of solid, basically solid, semi-solid to solid mini skeins that I got from Rosie's Moments in the UK, and I immediately caked up the black mini skein. Sorry, a candle there just put itself out and made a noise. So I had to check that nothing was burning. So I skeined up, I cannot talk, this to be the heels and the toes for this glorious rainbow goodness. Okay, the other acquisition I have to show you is November's KNITCRATE. Now, I'm well aware that it is the 14th of December. I could have talked to you about this maybe 10 days ago, but not before. It did not arrive in November. They were very upfront and clear in all their email communication and also on their Instagram in the month of November that some things changed for them, and they changed their shipping provider, I think, or something. They changed something in the way they were doing their packages, and certainly in their shipping providers. I think they went with different providers for different parts of the world, and it both resulted in quite a significant delay from packages leaving the depot in the first place and also in arriving. But as far as I understand, those problems should be ironed out from now. But they were I'm happy with their service because they were always very clear about the fact that these things were happening. They warned you beforehand that things were going to be delayed in November, and then when they realised how much, they again told people. So I'm just going to talk quickly about the KNITCRATE from November. Their theme for this month was inspirations. And again, they've gone with this booklet, which I think they're sticking with, where all the patterns for all of the KNITCRATE clubs are in there. So you're getting the patterns also for the other clubs, so the sock membership and the artisan membership and the artisan sock membership. Even though you're not getting the yarn for those, you're still getting the patterns all here in the booklet. And I'm just finding these were the 4 yarns colours for the main KNITCRATE membership this month. Sorry, I'm trying to get no glare. There we go. And you can see they're all very, very rich. This is a worsted weight base. It's called sugared worsted. I'll show it to you in a second. But yeah, they had a tonal blue, this amazing toffee caramel colour down here, which I originally thought, oh, I hope I don't get that. And then my friend Vicky Bird did get that, and it looks absolutely amazing. This one is, you know, a more bluish purple, and this is a much richer royal purple. So all beautiful deep jewel tones. And the patterns actually also this time around, there are 3 patterns, 3 knitted patterns to come with this. I mean, as I said, you get all the patterns, but designed for this yarn, there were 3 patterns, and on the knit one and 1 crochet pattern. So here I'm showing you the knit because they are hat, cowl and mitts. Obviously it's kind of dark and I'm trying to show it to you also without the glare. But it's a pretty fun pattern actually. I think it looks like a really good use, and also good for like a quick gift knit. So this is the yarn which I got. I got the tonal blue, which are glorious colours, and you know that I love it very much. And this is a sparkle yarn. So this is, it's called sugared worsted. It is 70% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 10% stellina. And it's a worsted weight, 200 meters for 100 grams, 2 skeins. So I will definitely be making something with this. I'm trying to grab, you're not going to get a good sparkle because it is horrendously grey outside. But I'm wondering if by any hint you're getting there of the sparkle, it's very sparkly. It's much sparklier than that. So this is, again, a lovely, beautiful, season appropriate yarn, I think. Lovely thing to get just before, you know, Christmas, and you certainly got it in time to knit. Yes, it was in November. I think most people in America definitely got them in November. Many people in Europe got them by the end of November. I'm in Switzerland. Things often take a bit longer. So I think I got it in the first week of December. Still plenty of time to knit up, you know, quick gift knits with those simple patterns that came with it. So again, I was very happy and impressed. And looking back over all the variety of yarn I've got from KNITCRATE, I continue to be impressed at the different things you're getting to sample and the different weights of yarn you're getting. And I'm looking forward to seeing what comes next. The final thing that I wanted to talk to you about was a little bit of dream knitting. So I have a desire to cast on another project for baby, and I think it's going to be the Rock Skipper Vest by Lynette Graham. I'm not positive that I will insert a picture of that here just because I don't think I have a picture, an easy picture to use of that pattern, and I know I want to get this up fairly quickly. But it is a lovely, simple, the link will be there. It's a lovely, simple garment size for babies through toddlers, so newborns through toddlers. And it, I like it because it's a vest, but it's got little sleeves to it and little buttons, so it's practical. And it looks really cute. And it's written for DK weight yarn. I don't really seem to have any, and it has a little texture pattern to it where it would be best in a tonal yarn really, or a solid. and I don't really have any DK weight yarn that is suitable for that. So I was either thinking of using this Malabrigo Rios, which would be a bit fat. This is the teal feather colorway. It's coming out way too blue there. It's more green, but you know, it's a glorious color. So I would have enough yarn, but I'm not sure the gauge would be quite right. My other idea is to double up some fingering weight, which gives you that sort of DK worsted kind of gauge, because Malabrigo Rios is quite a generous worsted. So I mean, it's quite fat. I'm not sure there's a tag in here to tell me, but I think, you know, it's less than 200 meters per 100 grams. For sure, it's 180 something meters. So you know, it's I wouldn't go as far as calling it an Aran, but it's getting towards the Aran. Whereas it would be better to have a DK light worsted, which is what I would say you normally get from doubling up fingering weight. So I still need to decide on that, because I do want to have that one cast on relatively soon. I might wait to cast it on until I've, you know, finished this, or at least I finished the knitting of this, and all I have to do is the seaming and the neckband, and then I might cast on that. I also have an urge to use this yarn. This is a lovely chocolate brown colour. It's a bit darker than you're seeing there, and you can see it's got beautiful, beautiful twist to this yarn. This is yarn from Nurturing Fibres. I think it was called, so it's called Bitter Chocolate. It is 100 grams of superwash merino, approximately 330 meters, so it's a bit plump, and it's, yeah, beautifully high twist. And I just keep envisaging this. I'm just trying to see, does it have a base name, this base from them? Oh, it was called sock something. Anyway, but yeah, it's a sock wool, but high twist, so that makes sense, but it doesn't have any nylon in it, but it's very high twist. So it is a sock yarn, but I was thinking of making like a little hat, and because of the colour, I guess I was just thinking of one of those hats, like a squishy garter hat with like the little bear ears. I was looking for a pattern, and I think I stopped looking. I didn't find one that I looked exactly how I imagined, and I don't really envisage designing one, but I have an idea of how I want the hat to be, and then I just want it to have little bear ears. So I want that to happen some way, and I might do it as a fingering weight, or I might hold it double to be squishier still. So that is another baby knit thought that I'm having right now. I did post on Instagram my Make 9 for 2019. I was umming and ahhing about posting a Make 9. I'm not one of these, I don't feel I'm cool enough to be these kind of people who have they make their beautiful episodes just about their Make 9s and talk about the lovely yarn they're going to use to make the lovely projects. And I watch those things, and I really enjoy hearing about other people's dream knitting, which is why I continue to talk about mine, even when wondering that it might be boring or not of interest to anyone. I find it interesting when I hear about other people's dream knitting. But I always feel that I don't really have... I know that I think of things and then you don't actually cast them on, or plans change, you know, people change their minds, or you just, I don't want to feel also overwhelmed by saying, oh, these are the 9 things I want to make, and then feel bad when I don't make them. But I had seen the Make 9 starting to pop up and thinking at some point I might have a little look and make my own Make 9. And then Ellie of Skeins posted hers, and she posted it in a way where she had her Make 9 for this year, and the second picture on the Instagram was her Make 9 from last year, saying which ones she'd made, which ones she didn't want to make anymore, and many of them she just transferred them because she hadn't got around to making them, but she still was invested in making them. And it made me think that to reflect on my Make 9 from last year, and in the same way, thinking about looking at, I've made 3 of them, well, I've made 1, and I'm halfway through another one, and I've almost finished, this is the Love from Breton with Love, another one. So that's 3 of them that made it onto the needles. And there was a couple that I still like them, but I'm just not sure right now that I'm ready to make them. And then there were others that are on that list and I still want to make them. Either, you know, not just because I have yarn for them, but because I had yarn for them and I still like them, or because I still very much behind making them. So I basically copied Ellie and, you know, took the ones that I still wanted to make, explained what they were, put in some new ones, said what I had done from my Make 9 last year, and I really enjoyed the process of that, sort of reflecting on what I had wanted to make, how things had changed, what I might want to make next year, and if anything, having that as a record to look back on next year to see what I had wanted to make and then what I did make from that. rather than seeing it just as a pressure, but, you know, as an inspiration and a chance for reflection. So I did that too this week, and that was also something that I found lots of fun. Oh, I didn't show you this. So I was very, very kindly given the Sweet Advent, or 12 Days of Advent Sweets. I've forgotten how she named it, by Nora George yarns. Tracy sent it to me as a surprise. And I would very much like to use those mini skeins to make, so basically there's 12 mini skeins and 12 chocolates. So one day you have a mini skein, the next day you have a chocolate, and so on and so forth. And I'm keeping to it, and I'm really impressed by myself that I'm keeping to that. So today's the 14th, so by now I already have 7 mini skeins of yarn, and I haven't eaten my chocolate yet for today. So anyway, I'm loving it, and having seen how she's sort of done the colours, I think it will make a really nice Eviget cowl as well. So in this case, they are 10-gram mini skeins. So my idea, if I want to make the full cowl, which would need 24 sort of segments of yarn, is to pick I think I have a tonal grey skein of yarn in my stash, fingering weight, like the similar type fingering weight, 75-25. So that could be one of the colours, and then each alternating colour is one of these. So this is the order in which they came out. So this was the first mini skein that I got, and then this one, then this one, and then this one. So these are the first 4 over the first 8 days. And then moving on from that, we had this one, and this one. So they are very Christmassy, very beautiful, but very Tracy as well. Sorry, that way around they would go, of course. Sorry. Like that. So you can see we're sort of alternating dark and light, and sort of also within that kind of alternating tonal and speckled, although there is still speckling in some of the darker tonal yarns. But absolutely loving how it's looking. So yeah, I'm looking forward to using that, and I think they'll make a really beautiful project. Another idea is, of course, just to make some scrappy socks, but scrappy socks have never really appealed to me for making. I've seen many pairs that I like a lot, seen pairs which don't inspire me at all, to be honest, but each their own, and using up scraps and what have you, nothing remotely against that. If you love them, that's fine. I've more seen ones that I like which kind of have a theme to them, using all skeins, you know, from one dyer rather than totally scrappy. Although I have seen some totally scrappy ones which also looked amazing. Babbling on about this too much, but just trying to say that the actual idea of knitting them doesn't appeal to me that much, because when I think of socks, I think of really simple things where you're not having lots of ends to think about at the end. And while there would be exactly the same number of ends in the cowl that one would make with them, somehow, I don't know, it's a weird mental thing. But anyway, I'm thinking more the cowl than the socks is the point. Okay, so that is everything for this time around, and therefore for this year. I wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that whatever you're doing at this time, if this time is an important time to you, that you are doing the things you love with the people you love. If this is just any other time of the year for you, then you can ignore my previous comment, but it is a special time for me, and I'm very much looking forward to it, and seeing family and eating good food, and the like. So I wish you all very Merry Christmas, as I said, and I will see you in the new year. Bye.